despite the disclaimers that might come from a chatbot, an AI interface that's a conversational one, despite those disclaimers, the language still has power to move us in ways that the speaker of that language or the originator of the model has control over. And so this power of language for people, combined with these large language models that AI that represent these AI systems, already I think should maybe put our warning flags up a little bit. And then we think about, given that, how might these systems be used, or how we might use these systems. There's some good uses for them. However, some of the limitations of these AI systems include what we call hallucinations, which is that the systems will give you a very confident and very plausible response to your question or your request. But sometimes that response contains something that's not true. Not because anyone decided to give you something that's untrue, but for reasons we don't really understand, the models will make information up, which we call a hallucination. So we need to be very careful because language is powerful. We're speaking, metaphorically speaking, with something that's not a human. It's a mathematical model. And we need to be cautious about how we use the information we get. And always keep in mind that it may be false information, just a mistake. Like humans also have a problem of maybe false information, not because they're trying to deceive, but because they're misinformed. So maybe that's a good way to think about, although these models are very powerful, they occasionally will exhibit what you would say is that's a misinformed answer. And so we need to be able to judge those things. The models we have today are being trained by and large by information coming from the internet. So that means when we're interacting with these models, we're interacting with a model that has compressed and condensed the internet into a system. And when we think about the source of that information, most of the internet content is coming from Europe and the US, the Western world, and the more affluent countries. There is much, much less information from the Southern Hemisphere in general, from Africa, for example, much less information in the internet from those cultural perspectives. So our models trained on the internet are going to be biased toward the Western world, the more affluent world. There's also the case that many of the source websites that are used to train these AI models are themselves even more constrained in their demographics than the internet at large. Some sites like Reddit, for example, that are used to train some of these models are 60% male, more than 60% people who are aged 18 to 34. So when you're talking to a model trained by the internet and some of these sites, it's like you're talking to a 30-year-old white person from California, which isn't representative necessarily of the broader populations.